digital waste. You know that many domain names get registered every day, and unfortunately many domain names get just abandoned. They are not renewed. So what happens to that digital waste? Let's talk about that in more detail in the next panel, and I'll give the floor to Ludviga from .LV, who is going to moderate this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Katrina. So please, my panelists, come on the stage. I want to introduce Artūrs Mednis, our General Manager of Digital Marketing Agency New Black, and I'd say the most known and respected digital marketing expert in Latvia, if I may say. Tomas Makus, the General Manager of the .LT registry, Dom Regelte, Sasha, the Product Manager of the .DE registry, DNIC, and Karlis, CERT.LV expert. So welcome. Katrina already gave us a short intro of what we're going to talk about. So truly, it's very, very common today for organizations to dismiss their old and used domain names once a project has ended, or once they decide to rename their company or rename their product. But however, what goes on unnoticed is what really is given away together with this digital waste. And how does that affect the business from marketing perspective, business perspective, and cybersecurity perspective? So we're going to try to dig deep into this phenomenon of domain name abandonments, try to understand the holders, why they're doing that, and how can we help them to make a conscious and good decision and monetize that domain name digital waste for their own good. So my first question is to Sasha and Thomas, to you. How do you think, what are the primary reasons that organizations really do abandon domain names, and what do they overlook in this process usually?
I think that maybe one of the main reasons is, as you already mentioned, that companies just changing their name, reorganizing and changing structure, so changing the products they are working with. So they're registering new domain names, and I think that's the main thing why they just stopping using old domain names. And the worst thing, as you said, they are not considering the consequences. What does it mean to abandon the old domain name? Mm-hmm. And I think there are many issues, like and for cyber issue, for security, the domain name can be used for maybe for the branding, for how to say, bad things could happen to the image of a company. So there are different things.
Sasha?
Yes, I agree with Thomas, and I think another reason is that very often there is no reception that the domain name in itself is a value.
Yes. Yeah.
Very often domain names are cheap anyway, so they're discarded. And I think what a lot of registrants do not keep in mind is that probably there's still, for some domains, there will be some kind of traffic coming in. And even once the domain, when it is deleted and through the redemption period, very often it gets re-registered. And then the traffic that was meant for the original domain, or people looking for some content, end up at another domain, which also means that they are losing possible customers. And I think there are also some security risks, right?
Yes, Carlos. So can you explain us what are the cybersecurity risks?
Sure. Well, the cybersecurity risks would be exactly from what was mentioned before, the fact that people would be redirected, for example, to a website that is not in fact what they want to be visiting. So an example could be that some institution has changed their name, so they go to a different domain name. Some people who haven't been aware of it, or if the institution hasn't informed their clients, they will be visiting a completely different domain now that isn't associated to them. Now, in the situation where it is actually someone malicious who has taken over that domain name, well, now they could use that domain, for example, to gather people's credit cards, personal information, stuff like that, which is basically malicious activity. In the same way, the cybersecurity risks, for example, are that if a domain is not disposed of in a right manner, you know, for example, if associated emails aren't deactivated, then and if people have registered to like services like social media or banking or even public institutions with those emails, if they haven't informed the relevant institutions that they have changed their email now, then the person who has registered the domain now will start receiving all the information from those institutions.
Mm-hmm. So we looked at some of the cybersecurity risks and business risks. So Artūrs, the next question is to you. So what about the company's brand and reputation? And can you maybe add to what your colleague said here regarding also brand awareness and security? And maybe you have some examples to share as well.
Yes, so thank you all for what you said. So it's absolutely true. It's also, we're speaking from the marketing perspective, because if you're just starting the company, so you are registering just one domain name, but if you are doing the marketing campaigns, maybe you can start, you know, 10 landing pages per year, just each for different campaign, and then you just shutting it down, and maybe you just read off, you know, even the domain name after 12 months, so you didn't pay to extend for the next year and so on. So there are some potential risks, of course, cyber squatting, brand jacking, when somebody acts like you or pretends like you, and especially it's bad from the marketing perspective. I mean, when the company or any institution invested already hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or just few thousands, whatever, of euros in a campaign for this, in marketing for this campaign, get traffic to the site, backlinks to the site, and etc. So, and then after, you know, just 3 or 4 months, so you don't need it anyway, so you are shutting down the site. And nobody thinks about the domain names. They think just about the site or the campaign, but there's also something more. That's the domain name, right? And after 12 months, somebody else just take the name and get all the benefits, or maybe pretend like you, and then there is data breach when they maybe can start to collect the data. This is from security, right? Or maybe competitive advantage. So now, so last year, somebody else built this campaign or this brand, and now we will rebrand it or we will launch again, but as another company, maybe even as competitors to the original company, right? So basically, potentially lost revenue, search engine optimization impact as well, because maybe domain has some authority, not just backlinks, but you know, the older the domain is, the better. What else? So, or maybe the audience is just confusing about what they see now there on this website, because they were searching, they found something online, and they clicked on article, and then there's a link to your site, and now it's something else there. So there are some potential, let's say, risks for the companies also, not just keeping this domain name or redirecting or doing something with this.
Thank you. So yeah, so to sum it all up, I'd say that a lot of, as Sasha said, a lot of people and organizations look at domain name as an expense because it costs money, so they don't need, and as Artūrs said, they see them as a site rather than an asset, as a brand identity that they're throwing away, and that they can confuse the audience that is coming. So that is one thing. They can spoil their brand, like different ways, cybersecurity risks, as you mentioned. So there are a lot of these things that can happen when you drop a domain name, but why are really people still doing that? So can you, okay, we know that the names, I wanted to give you a little bit of background. So why are these people sitting here? Because when we did look as a .LV registry, analyzed what kind of domain names are being dropped, what we saw that usually they're being dropped very high-ranked domain names with a very high data flow and consistent data flow, not like for a few months after they're being deleted, but like years afterwards. So it's a bunch of money from marketing's perspective. But it's basically because either they're not the owner, they are collaborating through a marketing agency. That's why we do have a marketing agency expert here as well. And they don't see that as a value, they see that as an expense. So can you maybe share some, I'll ask that to Sasha and Thomas, some real life examples or experience, because sometimes people say that this happens only here in Latvia, but to show them that that we are not some kind of exclusion and we are not the bad ones that are allowing others to register domain names that someone registered before. Can you share some examples of such kind of domain names that were dropped and re-registered and maybe used maliciously or just to monetize their data flow?
I will not maybe mention the company names, but yes, we had not one call from domain name registrants, former domain name registrants, and they were asking what to do for us. We had a domain name, and the institution was reorganized. We changed the domain name to a new one, or just started using another company domain name, and now clients former called and say, what's in your website? So, yeah. And it's some inappropriate, let's say, information. One case was with a school, so, and director who called, he said that it's a content is not appropriate for children inside. It's some advertisements, but still it's for adults. So he was very, how to say, stressed and angry how it could happen. So we explained that when you delete the domain name, it becomes free for everyone to register. So, and who registers it, he decides about the content of a domain name of a website, or will he use, and what content will be here. So yes. And another case was with one governmental institution reorganized, and I think it's quite similar case. But I think it's more these problems rising more from governmental, because maybe for them it's hard to plan budgets or in advance to know that they will need to keep their old domain name, so they are just looking for the expenses for the resources we already planned, which will be used. And so that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. For the private, it was more like for the website which is not used anymore, and he said it's our website, even information is our, but not all the same. Something is changed. So, and he even didn't understand why it is, what's the benefit of it, and so on and so on. And he was angry because he said that someone thinks that it's our website, because it was our, and even information is left the same. Maybe they made copies of a former website, but something is changed. Not maybe not account number, so but some just information. So
I think it's for backlinks. So those, let's say, domain hackers, they use this tactic. So they take the domain which is free now, then they go through Web Archive, check what how the page were looking like a year ago, then they build exactly the same page, exactly the same content, and then they just put some links to their client pages or their pages or online casinos or porn sites or whatever. So it's definitely for that case.
Sasha?
Yeah, I think that the examples that we have are similar to the ones that what you've seen, Thomas. We had domains that were deleted, then re-registered, then completely different content. We also had companies that accidentally deleted part of their portfolio. The same for individuals, which is why 10 years ago we introduced the redemption grace period, which at least mitigated that, because now if you delete a domain and you don't realize it's gone for 30 days, then probably it's not the most important thing. You also asked for monetization. For .de, we have a very active secondary market, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if we turn to the secondary market, as you mentioned, Artūrs, have you been somehow involved? Maybe you have bought a domain, like highly ranked domain name, to boost the search engine optimization of your customer websites, or use this data flow in your own benefit, or maybe having some kind of example in that way?
I would like to, but no, I didn't did this for myself personally. Maybe just once. I had, like, I don't know, less than 100 domain names, maybe. No, actually less. I'm dropping them out because if they are not used for 10 years already. But there were one very cool case. I had this domain for like 10 years, and I kept this because I just couldn't find, you know, the right project for this domain. And then I found the right project for this domain for big IT companies. So we had a campaign and everything was great. And then just 1 year later, I just forgot to pay for this domain, and I lost this domain, and the site wasn't active anymore. But the domain was like, I love this domain. So, but I have experience when I'm buying the domain names for the companies. Sometimes other agencies are calling, and this is if I can continue with some examples. So sometimes the company is calling to me and saying, Artūrs, we want to buy this domain, and we see that some other company actually use this domain on their daily and quite actively, and the emails and everything, but they want to buy this domain. So then I just take, let's be honest, sometimes I take cash and just fly to Barcelona or whatever and just buy this domain for them. But the funny thing is, when marketing agencies sometimes called me, like other agencies, and there were a few cases when they called me and said, Artūrs, after 1 week, the new campaign is up and running, we have created ads, everything is up and running. We just forgot about domain. We just forgot to register domain name. And but the funniest thing is, because it wasn't a digital marketing agency, they even didn't check that this domain is already registered and belongs to somebody else. And thanks God, nobody is using this domain name. So they have this, but they are not actively using this. And there were several cases like this when I helped to buy the domains or led this negotiation. And some of domains cost 50,000, 60,000 euros, and some of these domains were with very high value for the company, because this is exactly the name of this company. Just for last 12 or 13 years, they couldn't manage to get this domain from original owner, and then I led this project, and it took like 6-7 months to actually convince them to, you know, to sell this domain to some other company. So it's very interesting, but this is not my job. This is my hobby, I would say.
Hobby.
Yeah, I like everything related to domain names. The biggest mistake, and this is what you can learn personally from me, is mostly I registered those domain names as my personal domain names. Even my company name is registered on my personal account. And I'm kind of chaotic guy, and I just forgot, time to time, I just forgot to pay for these domain names. So my suggestion would be for the companies to register as a company property, and then you can connect, you know, some other manager or secretary or some info or whatever email where, you know, reminders of the payment is coming, and you will never lose this domain. Thank you.
So one suggestion before dropping a domain name, maybe call Artūrs and he'll find the best organization to sell it to. and you can monetize it yourself before just dropping it into the secondary market. But before I ask the next question, can we have a Menti on the screen, please? I would like all of you to fill out this quick survey. Go to menti.com, enter this digits 29676132, and answer the questions there. Because before we ask the questions to our audience, I would love to see what you are thinking. So the first question there is, our businesses, how do you think? How would you rate on your own idea? Are businesses really aware of the potential consequences of domain name abandonment? Can we show that on the big screen as well? Because I see that only on the small one. Yeah, perfect. So we think that businesses are very aware, but even, no, not very aware. So I think that this varies a lot. Can we refresh that one more time? Okay. So there's still some awareness campaigns needed in order for people to understand. But even if the situation is that people are aware of all the risks and are still dropping the domain names, that would be a very sadistic thing to do. Can you go to the next question, please? So the second question is a question I would like to ask also to our panelists. How do you view the activities of drop catchers? So we already touched a little bit about the domain name secondary market. So the drop catchers, the real entities that are re-registering the used domain names, the ones that they see have data flow, steady data flow, consistent data flow, good reputation, or they just have fallen in love with a domain name like Artūrs. And do you think that they're a natural part of the domain industry, are unethical but legitimate, criminal, or no opinion? How would you, yeah, from a certain perspective?
Personally, I would have to go with just due to the nature of the thing that they are doing. I would go with the unethical but legitimate thing, because they are not doing anything inherently illegal. The domain has been dropped, so they are allowed to purchase it and they are allowed to use it. However, it is unethical in a sense. Well, I guess it depends on the question as well, because it would be legitimate if they just buy it and use it for a new purpose of sorts. But it completely would go into the unethical or even criminal part if they then start using that dropped domain to either send out phishing links or try and impersonate the company that was using the domain beforehand. So in that sense, it's a tricky question, but yeah, very used by case.
I think the answer that a lot of people do not want to hear is, these are the ones that understood the value of a domain name. And I think there are a lot, drop catchers is not drop catching, because there are a lot of different business models behind it. It's not just one business model, and a lot of it is very legit in my opinion. And they are a natural part of the domain industry.
Thomas?
I would agree with Karlis that it depends. I think we could find criminal activities within some of these drop catchers too, but mainly I think they are just doing business as everyone, and it depends on, is it ethical or unethical? It depends on what he's doing with all these domain names. So if he catch the domain name, and if a former owner comes to him and he sells it with a minimal marginal profit, just said, okay, if you're using, take it back and use it.
Yeah.
So it's okay. You can say that it's like insurance. He protected for a small amount of money and he returned the domain name back. But if he, I don't know, requires enormous amount of money, or if he puts content from a website infringing copyright, even of a website of a content, or if he just puts to another, let's say, unethical content compared to the one it was before. So So it depends, I think, on the use of it.
Once I had a domain name for like 5 years, and then 5 years later when I decided, okay, now it's time. Now, finally, I can start to use this domain name. Then I realized that I forgot to pay for this domain name already half a year ago, and somebody else already have it. So I contacted him, and he asked the price, which is like, come on, guys. If it could be like 10 times less, maybe, but not like that. Anyways, so as you maybe can understand, I don't like drop catchers, but are they criminals? So is it criminal to buy a property, some land out of the city, or maybe few other sections near, and just sit on this for 10 years and wait, maybe somebody else will need it? No. Is it criminal to buy this land and build there a underground weed or drugstore or weed siltumnīca, how it's like greenhouse, yes, or whatever? So yes, it is criminal. So the same here. Just to own the domain name is not a criminal. It depends just what you do with this. Of course, I don't like the drop catchers, like really, but this is kind of business. This is how somebody actually earned their money. This is how somebody just living, and this is kind of okay, because if it's regulated, if they pay the taxes. So I don't see a problem here, and in my case, it was my fault that I didn't pay like 6 months ago. I didn't pay for this domain, which had no value till that. The value was the name. I like this name, so I was sitting on this name. Now maybe somebody else will buy this domain and will build something great of it, instead of me sitting on this for 5 years. So even not try to sell. I never sold any of my domain names. I just lost them usually.
So there's two types of dismissing a domain: unwillingly, like forgetting to pay just for the domain name, and willingly, just saying, no, I don't need it because it's not my name, without understanding what you're really saying no to.
And I just want to add here, and you are, it's not obligatory to you to buy this domain name from this drop catcher. So if you don't like the price, or if you think it's unethical to buy this domain name, you can search for new domain names, and this is totally okay. Sometimes I suggested to my clients, forget about this. Let's figure out new domain names, because it's cheaper, and maybe it's just for a campaign. Anyways, we will put the links on social media and banners, and people will click there. And except this is not like your name for next 10 years, just for maybe few months, for a few weeks, if it's campaign, if it's not a company name. Just recently, I met one client, and they said their company name, and I searched for this, I couldn't find, and they said, actually is with .eu, because the domain name was already taken. And yeah, you can play with this, how it's in English? Extensions. Yeah, you can play with these extensions, which sometimes work, sometimes not, because usually people in Latvia try .lv or .com. But anyways, it can work as well.
Yeah, so it's not the end of the world if you lose your domain name. So that's also important. So is there really a solution? Like, what would you suggest to a person who is ending their campaign or thinking about renaming their organization? Like, what would you, Carlos, suggest from a cybersecurity perspective? How should they take care of the domain name before they just delete it? Because you don't need to keep a domain name that you really will not need.
Don't. I'd say keep it. It's not that expensive to keep a domain name, and I know NIC.LV themselves have very good posts and suggestions on how to protect a domain or how to dispose of a domain, how to say responsibly, and that you can think of keeping a domain name that you're not using anymore as a sort of insurance mechanism. If it all does depend, however, on I'd say the nature and size of the organization. that's something that you have to take into account. If you're someone who's just registering a lot of new domains and you're not actually using them for anything, they don't have a lot of publicity, they don't have a lot of, how to say, volume in terms of traffic, then sure, you can delete it because it doesn't really matter. But if you're a very big organization with perhaps thousands or tens of or hundreds of thousands of customers, then you go to the other point of view where I'd say keep it, because you can change your domain name, but don't let the other one get in hands of potentially criminal people, because the risks just don't outweigh the benefits or the cost of keeping it. If you do, however, keep it, then just make sure that you delete any associations with that domain. So if anyone's used that domain for registering profiles for some services, then inform everyone to change their emails so that whoever registers the new domain doesn't get emails about it. And basically delete any associated information databases that went along with the domain in the first place.
Thank you. Yes, Thomas?
Half a year before, we made some searches for our domain names, and like which domain names, username servers that are not available anymore. So, and we found that out of 230,000 domain names, it was more than 100 domain names which had pointing to name servers, at least one of which was not existing. So anyone could register with domain name and get the traffic for domain name request for his domain name and send his own responses. Let's say that website is here or email is somewhere else. So then we informed our registrants about this issue, but few of these name servers names were not existing because the domain names were deleted. So, and it's not only deleted maybe in .lt zone, maybe they were using the name servers which names are from .lv or .com or other domain names. So, but what I mean that sometimes it really could be dangerous to delete the domain name especially if its subdomain was used as name of name server. So so it can impact a whole big amount of other domain names.
Yeah, so it have a ripple effect. Yeah.
Yes.
And Sasha, do you have some kind of services, for example, in place in the registry that could, you already mentioned redemption period, that kind of helps people not to drop so easily a domain name. Is there something else, how from the registry's perspective you could help out holders here?
Well, we have, of course, registry log, which is, I think, in many TLDs, including ours, not very often used, but that's the most effective mechanism for not at least accidentally deleting a domain, for voluntarily really doing it. And like I said, with the redemption grace period and what we also have, any changes to the DNS are propagated within 3 minutes, so we really allow a quick restore of a domain and then to be active in the DNS.
And Artūrs, a similar question to you, as a representative, as a holder, like you have a view from a user's perspective. Like, what do you think? Do you have some practical tips for us as registries and registrars here in the room, how we can help organizations to avoid such bad scenarios, what we just here in the panel discussed?
Almost every week or every second week, my colleague or secretary or somebody from our office are sending to me an emails, forwarding an emails and asking, are we keeping this domain? Are we keeping this domain for the previous campaigns? And every single time I'm saying yes, like 100%. Sometimes maybe the site is not working anymore for last 2-3 years already. We are still paying for these domains for the client's campaign. So I'm not even charging the clients for this domain. I just keeping this domain just to be secure, to be sure that nobody else will actually will take the benefit or advantage of the previous campaign, which maybe happens years ago. And in Latvia, by the way, we know there are cases when after the the campaign is done, the agency, because agency did register the domain name, maybe this could be the one suggestion for the companies: register those domain names under your name, under your company, not the agency. Not let agency to do this, because after 1 year or 2 years, the agency usually they will not, they will get rid of this domain name because the campaign is already over and they don't need this expenses or this domain. So yeah, in our case, we usually have we keep the domain names, and we even don't close the web pages. The only reason why we close is maybe this campaign or this web page was for, you know, some data collection or something else that we don't need it anymore. So now we need to close the website because of the hosting and etc. But we do not close the domain name. So my suggestions would be, first, just don't close the site. But however, if you need to close the site, just keep the domain name. Maybe you can redirect the domain name to your main website, or if you are agency, to your agency's website. If you are the company, to your company's website. Maybe it's even better. So what else? It's very actually easy to pay for domain name, not for 1 year, but for 5 years already, especially in NIC.LV and in GoDaddy and etc. and other places as well, even for 10 years. So what I try to do, especially in last years, I try to register domain names. If I see, okay, this will have some value, especially in the future, I try to register already for 2, for 5 years, so I pay more, but then I don't have this risk for next 5 years. I don't have these 4 situations in the future when I can, you know, forget to pay for the name. So better just pay for 5 years ahead and add this expense in the total marketing budget. Instead of $20 or euros, just add 100 and that's it. I try to register all domain names in one place if it's possible. Sometimes it's just not possible. That's why I have 3 or 4 accounts. But if it's possible, just keep under one hood everything. And this is under one roof, let's say, everything, because this is better for you to manage. And if there are clients support, if you need client support, they can do this for you as well, and so on. I already told about not to use personal account, but company's account. However, maybe it can be even opposite, better, I don't know, it's up to you. But my suggestion for NIC.LV actually would be 2 things. First thing is, can you please make easier for non-technical guys to redirect the old domain names to any site I want, because it's not possible in your case. It's possible in GoDaddy's and other places. And the second thing is, it's optional, but please, maybe you could also create just, you know, 3-4 templates, maybe just 1 template, just simple white page to where I can redirect domain. If not to the another domain, then maybe this page can be opened with the text that I can edit for the similar cases, like for campaigns. Sorry, this. Then I can add the text like, sorry, this campaign is over. And people will not be confused because they are now redirected somewhere. Actually, it's also quite confusing. So maybe it's better that it's just a white page with some text of it. Sorry, the campaign is over. So, but yeah, but the redirection would be very, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. I like your suggestion. I see some of the registrars already nodding heads like, oh, yeah, yeah. Because I would say this is not just us as registries, also registrars. While we are implementing something like that in our registry, I think it's a very business proposition for all the registrars to help out the newcomers to, if they register domain name through registrar, use the redirect.
And registrars also should look at this, not just the, okay, we have 100 companies, then we will have 100 domain names. Actually, each of these company can register more than one domain name. Actually, they already do this for their different needs, including different campaigns or marketing activities or products or different domains for the main products and the e-store or career pages, for instance, and etc.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them are also redirecting to social media accounts, even if they are not ready to develop.
Yeah,
like
by the way, very good idea.
Yeah.
Many years ago, like, I don't know, 15 or 14 years ago, when I was blogging, and I was first on a Twitter in Latvia, and I just have no friends on Twitter because I was alone there, just me. So this is how I collected the Twitter followers, and actually the first Twitter users. They were coming to my blog, but for 1 week I redirected the blog to Twitter account. And people came there and, oh, what the heck is Twitter now? And this is how I get them registered to be registered on Twitter and follow me. Yeah, you can redirect to social media account. Sometimes you can redirect to some specific address, which actually opens the Facebook Messenger app or WhatsApp app on your phone, especially, or on computer as well. So redirection can be used in many cool ways, innovative and creative ways, how you can lead the customers somewhere you want them to go.
Thank you. So usually, also when we are asked the question, what should organizations do? What we usually ask just to review their domain name portfolio, because sometimes organizations are not at all aware what the kind of domain names they have. They might be aware what they're using at the moment actively, but not always. Some departments know, as Thomas said, domain names that are used for the technical infrastructure, for name servers, for mail servers, etc. The marketing people know the top domains that are now active for marketing agencies. Business perspective might know others, domain names for collaboration partners, for example, like on sites. But sometimes it's beneficial for everyone to check out what kind of domains are we using, to whom they are registered, to me, to my organization, or to my wife, ex-wife, whoever. So this is the question, the last question for our audience was, can you view that the results on the screen was, how often do you think organizations should review their domain name portfolios? So regularly, annually, infrequently, criminal. Criminal, and rarely, almost never. So yeah, annually, so at least once a year. So whenever I go to events and I talk about this, never ever organizations have ever really evaluated their domain name portfolio. And what usually they do after the event, they go check on and see, oh, my domain name is not registered. I mean, that's like, I would say 60% of the results. So I would say should is a good word. We should do that, but I would say we have as a registry seen that the real scenario to people who are coming to events like these, so that is people who are interested in cybersecurity, they don't do that. So I don't know, maybe collectively somehow we can influence them to evaluate the portfolio, at least start with the fact that they know what they have, and then they know what they can further do on.
If I can add here, so back in the days, like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the domain names were registered by IT geeks and web developers and IT people in the companies and security managers and IT managers and etc. You get the idea. Now the domain names are registered by average persons, like company owners. Average, I mean, they are not IT guys in most of the cases. And is it large or small company, whatever, in most of the cases, those domains are registered by quite average people, and then they don't have, you know, those tools that reminders about this and that and etc. and etc. So also we need to need to educate them as well. And this is what you guys are doing very well. But also we need to help them. We need to give them tools. Maybe we need to send more reminders that you are sending already. Maybe we need to remind not 1 month in advance, but 2 months in advance. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's very not effective in terms of cost, but maybe there is some person who can just call them and said, maybe you didn't check the email, but actually tomorrow you're going to lose your domain name, and we see your website is up and running, and you use this domain name. And it's a question: can you afford to do this as well? But because the average persons now, the persons who register domains now are not IT geeks, but they are quite average persons. Of course, they cannot, do this quite properly, like every year or every month. But basically, I believe every single day you should know what do you have in your what are the portfolio domains you have in your register.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that our time is already passed. Thank you so much. We did have a few questions online. I'm sorry we couldn't ask them, but you can catch us during the coffee breaks. That's the benefit of being here in person and seeing us. So for all the online participants, we'll try to answer them online as well. Thank you once more for being here. Thank you so much. And a little wish to all the domain name holders and registrars: use the information, the hints, the little suggestions, and hopefully together in collaborative with CERTs, with other registries, and maybe with marketing agencies as well, we can raise the awareness of the risks, raise the awareness amongst us as registries, how we can help like a normal user to hold on to a domain name and be informed how to do that effectively. So thank you once more for the panel. And with this, I end my panel. I want to give you a little presents to all of you. Thank you.